All right, cool. So I am excited about sharing Om Rupani's work, and something that I feel really passionate about because it's about play, it's about intimacy, it's about being present. If I had to narrow it down right now, and things always feel different, but that feels really clear. And so I bring to you Om because we're going to be discussing fundamentals of BDSM and like what that means and why it's not as scary as the movies portray. And I am co-sponsoring and sponsoring actually a weekend that Om is a really busy guy, a busy teacher. And I think it's important that my people, because I'm always, yapping on about you, and cavelling is actually the Jewish word.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, you put on some dates on the calendar of this amazing weekend workshop. And I want everyone to get familiar with your work and to feel comfortable stepping into an arena that may seem like so edgy that people are like, no. But I want to open the door and be like, it's not scary. It's actually beautiful. It's closer to the divine as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'd be curious. You said, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm excited.
I was wondering, so you're saying address what's scary for people. And I'm trying to think of actually what that is. And quite frankly, I don't have one single answer. I mean, there's a category, you can say it is permission.
Well,
a feeling of permission that people, when they kind of cross a certain threshold. And I think that applies to all new things, or maybe not just new things, but things that are certainly considered a bit taboo.
Yes.
But then what holds the permission back on a particular person, I can never really tell. It does vary quite a bit. Right? For some people, it's an identity piece. They feel, well, I'm just not the kind of person who does BDSM. If people discover I do this, they will think, you, not you. We would have never thought you. And there's a pressure well, do I want to be that person? Do I want to change my identity? Do I want other people to know what I do? And more than that, actually, how do I think about myself?
So good.
That identity piece can really, and truly, I think it's actually a spiritual piece. Apart from, let's even forget about BDSM. Let's even forget that you're taking a class or not taking a class. If you get confronted with an examination that triggers your identity, that's a spiritual piece. It's like there is an area which I don't condemn, or I don't think people who do that are bad, but I don't want to be seen doing it, and I don't even know what it would mean about me if I did it. So that piece is always, it's very much an internal piece. I actually don't know what to tell people on that. I'm like, that's your journey. You got to figure it out. Because
totally,
identity is ready to go, it'll go. And if it's not ready to go and you try and push it, or try to unplug it prematurely, it'll bite back. Identities are tough cookies. They're almost like entities in the system. So if you try to take away someone's identity, they will fight you tooth and nail. That's one big piece. It keeps people from exploring this realm.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying relaxed my own nervous system, because when I love something, I want everyone to do it. But the truth is, I definitely don't want to drag anybody or talk anybody into this. This is more of you have a curiosity, or you took my class, my early, barely touching energetic intimacy class, and you're like, ooh, I want more. And what you give is the whole shebang, and let's peek into every area. But it's you call it the fundamentals. That's what you're offering. So I would just say to people, the scary part is what's seen in movies, what's read in books, when it's oh, it's just pain. This is about putting people in really uncomfortable situations that they don't want to be in.
Right.
Going against people's will, I think, is the scary part. But what I'd like to uncover
I'm
today,
not actually quite sure.
Well, that's what people say to me. When they say, oh, you're into this.
Funny part. Here's the funny thing. The people, the outsiders may think it's the pain that scares people. The truth is, if when you mention pain and bondage and discomfort and being taken out of control, There are people out there getting hard and wet. So I don't think that really scares people. That actually is a part people know. I know that turns me on. It's like people have already discovered that turn on. I don't think
All
they're
right,
that
so fuck it. Let's just tell people what this is. So,
naive.
oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm always trying to gather the whole fucking spectrum of people. The people who are watching this are like, I want to
Yeah,
know some shit.
if people who are that afraid of this whole realm, they're not listening to you right now. They're not even
Okay,
in your
I really
class.
need you in my ear all the time. You're right. You're so
People
right.
who are people who have even asked you a question about BDSM, they already have felt certain turn-ons, they've already felt certain desires, they've at
Oh,
least
that's
watched some
exciting.
erotica, they've at least read a book, they at least know, they at least asked their lover to grab their hair and spank their ass, they've at least tried BDSM light. If
Yeah,
they
let's
haven't,
keep
I
it
don't think they're
real.
listening right now. If they haven't done that much, I don't think they show up in my field. I
Okay,
don't trust that. It doesn't work.
it doesn't work, and it's the late and sexy time. We're doing it live at 11 o'clock. Whoever's
We
fucking
are.
watching this
The late
is
call.
like, so, yeah, like, come on, let's keep it real. Okay, cool. So, what can I ask you? What do you want to talk about? Like,
Well, you know, I want to address, you said you have a very specific community that you are trying to bring this course to. So I don't know if people have asked you specific
yeah.
questions or you think questions that specifically apply to your community so we can make it relevant to them.
Okay, cool. So, some of the questions. So, I want to share about this one thing a guy did, and this is no, it's not even important. Fuck it. So during when I began the class, this was at Connection Camp. Um, a lot of people were curious about switching or knowing if they're dominant or submissive. Um, so that was one. I'll give you one at a time. So
Okay, well,
what do you think?
that's a great starting point, and the answer to that is a very clear and solid one in my work. For anyone who's taken my class or even done an evening class with me, I work with archetypes. I will take you into your dom and your sub archetype. That's kind of the foundational piece for me. So we start there, we go there, and every single scene we end there, and you get to spend the weekend taking turns, kind of really embodying the dom and sub archetype without necessarily attaching it to any external play. You embody the archetype, you really get to feel what this archetype feels like from the inside. And I think that piece, even more than any physical play, even more than saying, do I like to be at the giving end of this or the receiving end of this? Just embodying the archetypes of the dom and sub really inform people so much that they get a lot of clarity. And many people
Mm,
are surprised. Usually people are holding a judgment against one of the archetypes. And if anything, my
mm,
desire, my goal is to take those judgments away from you because those judgments are dangerous. A Dom who
mm.
has judgments about the submissive archetype is a dangerous Dom. So that's one way to get clarity on what is it that turns you on. You simply will almost wear both sets of shoes and see which one fits better and which one resonates with you more.
That's great. It's like knowing which foot you are when you surf. You just have to do it and
Yeah,
see what happens.
you have to embody it because you won't know it otherwise anyway. You can think about it and you can be all cerebral about it. But this isn't about just a cerebral experience. This is about really feeling it in your core, and it's quite beautiful when that happens. So you'll have that
So good.
information by the end of the workshop so that you can work with that, and it'll be your information. It won't be any knowledge I can give you. I will help you embody those archetypes, but what those archetypes tell you or which one resonates with you more, that's your discovery.
You just answered the next question, and it's on Facebook. And he said, "My thing is, I might say, I want to be the sub, but it's like can't get past the fear. My own mind is the problem." Do you
Well,
want
I
to say
would actually
anything to that?
say I advise people not to fight your fear. I actually don't think I think fear is here to serve us. I don't think all fear is irrational. Most of our fear actually is rational. Not all of it, but a lot of it is rational. So if you have fears, bring them into class, bring them up in discussion. There are probably legitimate reasons, whatever they might be. Do they want to share what specifically their fear is so we can talk about it? Fear can be about identity. Fear can be about what will people say. Again, there's so many things you may be uh, that may be kind of nagging at you.
Mm,
I'm not sure which one it is for this particular person.
cool. As you were saying about like in his mind, he's trying to figure out like which one, but that's really, you know, you can't really like figure it out until you're in it. And I would say like for people, because a lot of people say, oh, I've tried this. This is the next thing I want to talk about. Like I've tried being sub, I've tried being dom. And I want to invite you to share, like, if you don't know anything, you know, if you're just doing it based on the movies, like what would be something that you would advise somebody who said they've tried both?
Well, my best guess would be that when they say they've tried both, what they kind of mean is I have given a spanking and I've received a spanking, I've given a flogging and I've received a flogging. They focus on acts. They focus on the giving and receiving of sensation and so forth. Unless you really have been taught and guided into it, most people don't like make an initial deep dive into the archetypes. They jump to play first. They jump to toys first because BDSM has so many fun toys. And when they encounter it in a movie, in a book, in a club, in erotica, they encounter acts and they get turned on by them. So they think, I want that act because obviously I'm responding to it.
Yeah.
They may not have the insight or the wisdom initially to realize it isn't just the act that's turning them on. It is seeing the archetype embodied. It isn't just that the person X is receiving a flogging. It's that person X is in subspace. And receiving a flogging is putting them in subspace. And you want that experience. Of flogging, not necessarily, but of subspace. Now, people may not have that clarity when they first encounter. They may get just a whole shot of it, like, oh, that whole thing turns me on. But what the mind focuses on generally is the physical, the external, initially. So, again, when people say they've tried everything, I would say you may have tried acts, but you may not actually have completely gone into embodying your dom archetype and your sub archetype. I think that's where the real information is. That's why I always encourage people, start with the archetypes and then build the play and the toys on top of it. It'll only be better. But if you work from the outside in, if you work with sensation play, if you just work with all the physical fun, that's clearly part of scene play and it should be, but you kind of miss the point. You don't start at the core, you come in from the periphery.
And when you say missing the point,
I'm saying if you miss the archetypes, you kind of miss the point.
Sure. And like
if you don't know how to occupy the dom space and you don't know how to access your subspace and be gracious about it, you're kind of missing the point of the whole play. All the sensation play is there, all the external play is there to take you into that headspace of the dom space and the subspace. So if you don't know that space, you kind of don't have a goal. Your arrow has nowhere to point.
Well, and that makes me remember the questionnaire. Like when people say, somebody asked me a question, can I say no at any time? Can I change my mind? What about stuff like that?
Yes, you can absolutely say no. You can absolutely change your mind. You know, the whole idea here, I mean, consent is like almost a prerequisite. Obviously, everything we do, we are doing it within consent. There's nothing that's going to happen in the beginning, middle, at any point that you are not a yes to. And if you feel you're out of consent, then it's also part of your responsibility as a submissive to speak up, to call out your safe words, to communicate. So all that obviously is also very, very important and integral part of the DS training. First of all, knowing your desires, being clear about them, communicating your desires. And as you know, we do it in writing.
Yes.
And then also checking in if your desires change, to know when to stop a scene or communicate or give adjustments. So yes to all of it. So obviously that's like almost a technical groundwork. We have communication, you can change your mind at any point. In fact, I actually give people this long-term advice if they're going to be doing this, like never allow a submissive to change a no to a yes within a scene.
Yeah.
But they can change a yes to a no at any time.
It's amazing.
So communicate at the beginning of a scene, and if a submissive says, I'm a no to canes, and in the middle of the scene, if the submissive is having an amazing time with whatever impact play you're doing, and he or she requests the cane, say no. Don't let them change a no to a yes, but they can change a yes to a no at any point. And so this is like almost a technical groundwork. I'm sure everyone who does sane and consensual play kind of works by these principles. But there's another level for the DOMs to keep in mind. One of the biggest things you want to do is you want to turn down your submissive's vigilance. You want them to surrender. You want them to go deep internally. And to do that, they really need to be able to trust you. You need to be able to take care of your submissive's head noise. So everything you can speak, anything and any assurance you can give them that allows them to surrender, that's good seduction on your part. So this is an area where good safety is good seduction. Why? Because good safety will put the mind to rest. And if the mind is at rest, the mind is seduced. If your mind knows.
Wait, I love that.
If your mind is at rest, if your mind is comfortable, if your mind is in trust, your mind has been seduced. Trust is seduction. So this is also actually one area where safety equals more sexiness. People tend to believe safety is less sexiness. No, if you can take care of all your submissive safety concerns, all their concerns, the more concerns you can take care of, the more they will surrender and relax, because your monkey mind will say, listen, what's the big deal? I trust this person. I know I can stop at any point, and I completely believe this person would stop if I wanted to stop. So nothing's going to happen here that I don't want to happen. If you can hold that energy as a Dom and your submissive believes it, they'll relax. And when they relax, energy moves. Right? Try arousing a tense person and try arousing a relaxed person. See which one works faster.
That's great. Does anybody watching on Facebook have any questions? We're getting a bunch of comments that say, I love this archetype stuff. And I see that communication is the forefront of all this. Yes. Which is why I love it so much, because communication, it's not just like, it's like the whole time. There's constant communication, and there's tools taught that won't disrupt your turn. Like, I was most impressed with that stuff.
Yeah. We always say, communicate a lot before a scene, communicate a lot after a scene. And if you do that, you can communicate minimally during a scene, because during a scene, the verbal part of the brain wants to go quiet. So you don't really want to, you don't want to be chatting during a scene. That can be a form of resistance. So there should be minimum verbal engagement, unless you're doing verbal play, but that's kind of a whole different category of teasing and playing and getting inside someone's head. But as far as chatter goes, just yakking away, it should be at the minimal within a scene. It kind of should be kind of a sacred, quiet place, so you can go internally and you can really listen to each other. So, but to do that, it's great to have communication bracketed before and after the scene.
Okay, awesome. And so now I want to specifically ask, does anybody have any questions? The workshop is coming up July 20th and 21st in Jersey City. You'll get the address when you register. What questions do you have, whether it's practical or emotional or mental, like whatever, that you're like, I'd like to go, but I'd love to know those questions, because if you have that question, other people do too. Okay, so Jessica wants to know, can Om speak more to the different types of archetypes?
Well, we basically work with a Dom and sub archetype in the first course. I think that's a big enough chunk for people to experience. In the advanced courses, I would love to take people into different aspects of the Dom archetype and different aspects of the sub archetype. But I think that categorization is kind of premature and kind of a little too advanced for new people. I think just embodying the Dom and sub archetypes deeply itself is like, you know, you start that today, you can keep going for a year and still be making discoveries.
Minimum. I mean, the workshop I taught was just like hand on shoulder, you know, it was basic shit, and it was moving.
Yeah. But certainly if you have a particular desire, if you have a particular kink, you know, there can be like, one example can be daddy little girl scenes. It's something that keeps coming up in beginning classes. I'm actually writing notes on it so I can give people some peace about it. It used to be kind of a, I didn't used to teach it that in a beginning class, but I keep getting a lot of questions about it. So that's a very specific Dom sub dynamic. You can say it's a specific type of Dom, it's a specific category of Dom, and then a specific category of sub. And there are many such pairings in a way, right? You can be a particular kind of Dom to evoke a particular aspect of a submissive archetype. But I would say start with simply the Dom and sub and embody that deeply. And if you have that foundation, then kind of the other ones are like almost satellite.
Mm.
The characteristics of the central Dom sub archetypes.
Okay, cool. Anna has a question, and she says, how can these workshops help with practical non-sexual relationships? I like that question.
Well, I think both archetypes really have their own gifts. Both archetypes have their own mastery. There's level of mastery available in both archetypes. Within the Dom archetype, essentially you're becoming a really amazing space holder. You're creating almost a field within which somebody can have a transformative experience. If you want to get a little bit more woo-woo about it, you're essentially in shamanic training as a Dom. You're creating a field and you're creating an internal container through which somebody else can have a very visceral experience and experience a shamanic shift. So, well, that's kind of serious. Yeah. If you want to use your really traditional Judeo-Christian, you're kind of in priesthood training. A Dom can be a priest. That's another sub-archetype. A Dom can be a shaman. So that kind of a area is where the Dom's archetype, its area of training is. The better of a Dom you become, the more of those things you become. And the submissive has like the depth that's available in surrender and chaos. It's a very fertile area. Sex lives there, birth lives there, death lives there, new knowledge lives there in that chaotic place where a submissive goes to. So if you have access to that, well, that's a pretty rich place to have access to. And ecstasy lives there. Yeah, this is why submissives love to fly. This is why people who are able to fly fast and quick are the ones that make better submissives. They kind of seem to have an access point to that chaos, but if they try to enter it themselves, they can kind of get lost and actually be very destructive and dangerous. But the combination works really great to have a Dom who can take you into that chaos and kind of still hold a tether so that you don't get lost and bring you back. I think that's a really great service actually a Dom can do to a submissive or a shaman can do to a practitioner, is they take you into your chaos and they bring you back. And the things you bring back from that chaos, they nourish and nurture the Dom as well. It's kind of very archetypical things if you want to get really woo-woo about it. The hero's journey kind of works the same way. The hero starts off in a very stable environment where he has complete mastery. He plunges himself into an area where he doesn't have mastery. He gets his ass kicked from here to next Tuesday because he enters chaos, but then he triumphs. Then he makes discoveries. His character changes, and the discovery he makes, he brings it back to his tribe. So you move from too much form into chaos, you struggle, you find new information, you bring it, and you create the new form. And the Dom sub-dynamic is kind of the same. The Dom takes a submissive into his or her chaos, and the ecstasy and the graciousness the submissive brings back nourishes both the submissive and the Dom.
So good. So Anna asks, what
But can you say that again? You broke up for a bit.
Okay. So the next question is, I'd like to know how to use Dom sub role play as a means for gaining assertiveness. I'd like to speak to that a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because the first reason I was like, I just want to take your class many years ago. There was like an evening class, and I was like, I want to be better at sales and business. And I felt like I was giving my power away to victim that I was hearing. And it's like when you do something so edgy, as do a weekend workshop in BDSM, you kind of get this like, hey, if I could do this, I could do anything. And I get the sense that it's like that improv thing that I love, which is experiencing ownership of your power.
Right.
And so to me, that's like the most, if I use it every day, it's like I've tasted my power. I've seen the impact of it. Now I own that experience. That's
Right.
like an embodied experience.
I completely agree. The only additional thing I would contribute to that is when people, so they say, I want to be more assertive. I want to be more assertive at work. I want to be more assertive with my boss. I want to be able to ask for a raise. I want to be able to lay my boundaries and say, no, I don't want to work Saturday, so on and so forth. But people, so they assume I need to channel the Dom energy to be assertive. And that's fine, actually, that works too. But I would also offer to people, both archetypes will make you clearer and stronger in your interactions. And
Yes.
qualities will be very different.
So smart. Yeah.
If you do actually have access to your submissive, and if you're not in shadow about your submission, there is actually a very different quality of strength that comes out of it. Right? You can still assert yourself, but it isn't necessarily an aggressive assertion. And I think we have gotten so prejudiced by the kind of the more masculine Dom approach that assertiveness is aggression, assertiveness is aggressiveness, that I think we've kind of lost the art. We think if you're submissive, you're kind of a, kind of a wet noodle and a pushover. But that's not submission. That's simply weakness and passivity. I think most people wouldn't know how to embody a powerful submissive because you really don't have the training for it. That archetype is not that strong in your system. But if the submissive archetype is really also very beautifully expressed and not in shadow, that can also be a different channel of being able to assert yourself in this world.
Yeah.
You will be able to get things done. You will be able to influence people. You will be able to make your point. And you won't look like a dude doing it.
Right. It's like silence is powerful, right? It's like a different avenue to.
Yeah. But it's like, it's actually very beautiful to see, and there's more graciousness in it, but it's just as powerful, it's just as effective. I would say in today's world, it's even more effective. You know why? Because everyone is doing aggression as assertiveness. So we've almost built a certain callousness to it. We've almost learned, like if you live in New York City, you automatically push back against people's aggressiveness or their assertiveness because you understand that energy and you understand you have to put your shoulders out and your elbows out to get anywhere in this big bad city. So that frequency, actually, we have built a resistance to. Whereas if you come in through the other door, which hardly anyone does, if you actually know how to be a powerful submissive, and if submissive doesn't work for you in this context, pick a different word. It just, to me, it's archetypical. It doesn't apply just to the bedroom.
Got ya.
But if you have expression in your submission and you're not in shadow, that's like a whole other channel of power that people you may actually like, you may shock or surprise them. They may not even know how to counteract when you come to them with that frequency of assertiveness. You know what I mean? They may not have any defenses against it.
I agree. Yeah. So we got a pretty long input from someone who's very in this world.
Yeah.
And I want to say, Thaddeus, like I'll read it in a second, but I also want to say the context for this is a fundamentals workshop that is coming up on July 20th and 21st. So, and with that, I'll read to you what he said, and it's a whole lot. Are you ready for it?
Sure.
Okay. So I feel the archetypes you give are very limiting. I'm a primal sadomasochist with dozens of friends in this scene. I know many who do not believe in power exchange in their scenes or dynamics. I also have friends that are dominant bottoms. Most educational literature on BDSM uses the term top and bottom and separates S&M from DS. I think, and then he's agreeing, no one should dive straight into play and should learn about negotiation and consent, as well as practicing skills on inanimate objects before their partner. I don't.
But you hung up on the last part. I didn't hear you, so I'm sorry.
I
You
know. Sorry. Oh,
were
okay.
finishing a little bit.
He said no one should dive straight
I
into
got that part. What was the one after
play.
that? Yeah, I
Oh.
hear you.
As well as practicing skills on inanimate objects
Right.
before their partner.
Cool. That's good practice. There's nothing there I really disagree with. Is there a question?
No,
Okay.
that's what I disagree with. Like, yeah, and also there's vast amounts of this you can get
There's
into.
huge
Like,
amounts of it. I've been doing this for over 10 years and I actually don't feel I learn all the time. If I go to a place like Dark Odyssey, I don't even look for scenes. I just sit on my ass and I watch other people. So like,
you're great.
yeah, I don't consider myself like I know everything about everything in DS, not even close. I'm like, this is like it's just everyone's individual journey in this realm tends to be so rich. There's almost
Mm,
like no one is walking exactly the same path. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's like
yeah.
when we meet at a place like Dark Odyssey or whatever in friendship and community, it's literally like, to me, it's like travelers in the desert that come together at the night in the oasis, right?
I
So
love that.
I
I
think
love that.
that's not a good comparison because the desert kind of feels empty. Imagine going to Burning Man, right,
Yeah,
with six
yeah.
friends, and you don't see your six friends for 6, 8, 12 hours, 48 hours, and then you meet. You can rest assured you have stories to share, right? Because everybody went their own way.
I
So I'm like,
mean,
I very much feel that way about people on the DS journey. There's like always much to learn. There is a certain core I think we will all agree with. I hope we agree with. But like after that, the journey becomes very individual and there's so much richness. And it's
I
amazing
love
because
that.
this is like, right now our culture has its head up its ass regarding gender, but it's like gender has never been a limiting factor in DS.
Mm,
Been doing this, people have been doing this for a long time, and it's like the genders don't match up with the archetypes. So it's like
yes.
it's always been inherently rich. But that
So,
also means
so good.
that each gender brings kind of its own flavor to the archetype and its own experience. So there's like so much variation and there's so much richness in it. It's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. It's like there's so much curiosity if you bring to the table. It's like unexplored, uncharted,
Yeah.
and that's like vivaciousness, right? That's like alive.
Yeah.
And so Thaddeus, what happens is when I bring it, my teachers on, whoever they are, I get really protective. So I guess that's where I was coming
That's
from.
sweet. You're protecting me. I like that. I need a bodyguard with big tits. Right.
Yeah, because I noticed it was coming up like what, and I just want to presence that. Okay, cool. Are there any other questions? Oh, okay, great. So Thaddeus has a question. Great. I
Uh-huh.
suppose my question is, why do you focus on only two archetypes? Maybe you missed the beginning, but if you want to just share that.
Well, okay, well, to me, there are fundamentally two archetypes. There are dom and sub archetypes, and within that, there are variations. So that's kind of the structure I work with. Maybe you work with a different one. So again, I'm not saying that there is only one kind of a dom or one kind of a sub, but to me, this is a two-person dance, and this is a polarity dance. And the
Mm.
polarity, in the broadest term, is dom and sub.
And also, like when I stepped into the Dom role, I had no idea what to expect. I thought I had to be nasty and mean and loud, and I was so loving,
Yeah,
and I got exactly, I mean, it was so much fun, and I was so me.
yeah,
So it wasn't like, oh, this is the Dom, you have to wear black shiny pants and blah, blah,
right,
blah. I got to be my most Shane
right.
self. And
Yeah.
that felt like my own archetype version of Dom.
No, I think when the archetype is more integrated, that's the way it feels. If it feels like a complete break from, I mean, it could be. Maybe you need to play dress up and like really have a shift. But
Yeah, I think so.
usually, right, if let's say if you know a teacher and they're a really good teacher and they completely embody the teacher, you know within half a second they can switch into teaching mode.
Hmm,
They don't have to like go into a classroom and put on an outfit and a hat and glasses to come out as a teacher. The teacher
great.
archetype is sitting there.
I love that.
Mother archetype is sitting there if you're a mother. So I think if archetypes integrated, it kind of you have easier access to it. It's close to you. And by all means, I think it is fun for people to like to dress up and go into the archetype and kind of decorate the archetype and kind of really give it its own space.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to work with next is like being the cold bitch, like because I'm so
Why
loving
do
and
you
it,
want to be the cold pitch?
because I'm so loving and nice and like
But why do you want to be something that you're not?
I would like to like work that muscle just so that it's not ignored. Like I just want to paint with that color.
All right,
I don't know.
cool.
Why
I'm
not?
sure, I'm sure there are plenty of people who would love to be at the receiving end of this. So I'm sure you're going to not have any shortage of scene partners.
Yeah, or maybe
Who
I'll just
wants
be
to come
like
experience Shane's cold bitch? Raise your hands now. There are hands going up out there in the dark.
oh, see, I get really excited thinking about it. And it might not even, I don't know if I could really do it. Um, but I would love
There'll be plenty of people willing to let you experiment on them. I'm sure there will.
oh, it's so good. It's so much fun. All right. So what else is interesting, Om, is that I'm getting a lot of private messages that are
Okay.
like asking me detailed questions.
You
Like
can ask the questions.
I know. So I'm gonna ask it without reading the people's voices, their
That's
names.
fine.
So okay, let's see. Oh, no. Okay, somebody asked, is this event for tonight? No, it's for
No.
July 20th and 21st. And I want all my people to get the early bird price. So that's why we're doing this. And also to just be like, hey, here's the energy that you're going to be in, you know? So get
Tell
it.
them where to go to register. Tell them to go to my website.
Oh, I'm going to put the link here so we can be even cooler than that.
Go
So,
to
or you can,
omrupani.org, and
right,
that's where all the information is. That's where you register.
okay. And get your butt registered. And I would say like trust your cock, trust your pussy. If it tells you like this is something I want to do, then just do it because your ego will get in the way or you'll get busy, blah blah blah. But Om is hard to get to. Like he travels the world teaching this stuff. This isn't like fuck it, he'll teach it again soon. Take advantage that he's doing this in the New York City tri-state area, and I want my people to come so that we can play together. All right. The other question is, so she wants to know, is this accessible by transport? Oh, public transportation, not like beaming
Yeah,
yourself. So I think so.
I'm in Jersey City. The course is in my home. You come to Grove Street from Manhattan, and I'm like a $7 Uber ride from Grove Street. It's not a big deal.
It's not a
You
big
have
deal.
lunch catered here, so you can stay here during the course, and we'll give you lunch.
Oh, I didn't know. Wait, say that again.
So when we have the course here, we cater in vegetarian lunch from an Indian place. It's great food.
Yes. Yeah.
It'll be
So lunches
vegetarian, not vegan. If you have special needs, you're very welcome to bring your own food, and we keep it in the fridge for you.
and Om, where do we do this workshop?
In my home.
But like, where are we in your home?
Well, there's a very big living room for the classroom, and then I have a little dungeon down here.
This is no joke. This isn't like sitting in a classroom. This is like learning and practicing. So you're
Yep.
going to walk away being like, holy fucking shit. This is a valuable education that.
Right. Yeah, it's very much an experience-based class. You'll do many scenes, small scenes. So every idea we introduce, we'll talk about it a little bit, and then you will do a scene to kind of embody it. So within
Yes.
2 days, I think you'll do at least, I don't know, 5-6 scenes a day. So short one.
I got so much from doing this, like, and some of the scenes I did with women, and that was super impactful what showed up. And, you know, I love improv because you never know what's going to happen, but there's a structure to it. And somebody else asked, what does chaos mean? So
It's like, I mean, it's almost too big a question to answer. I
I
would
know.
say it's a state of dissolution where new enters. I mean, there's a state where we get new information. We all understand inspiration. Okay, where does inspiration comes from? Where does it come from? So typically you would say there's a form, which is our world, which is the stuff we know, which is the known, and there's the unknown. And unknown is the chaos. And to access that chaos, you can almost need special techniques. To get to the unknown, you can't completely be in the known. If the known could have given you that new piece of information, it would not be unknown yet, right? That's kind of obvious. There are things that our current system cannot give us. There's knowledge that our current knowledge does not have access to. There is wisdom that our current wisdom doesn't have access to. There are parts of you that your current you doesn't have access to. If that weren't the case, there would be no such thing as growth.
Hmm.
Right? If there is anything as growth, if there is anything as evolution, what has not happened in evolution, you can say it kind of resides in a realm of chaos, resides in a realm of possibilities, potentialities.
That's
And that
great.
sounds weird and abstract, but I think it's actually, we live it all the time, actually. We move from
Yes.
form to chaos all the time. We move it from day to night. We move it in small doses, and in subspace, we do it kind of very deliberately, where you take the submissive into his or her chaos, into the unknown. It's kind of really unknown. People think DS play is about taking the giving and receiving of control. And that's a very first chakra interpretation. Yes, it is that. Yes, if I blindfold you and if I move you around, if I tie you up and I move you around with a rope, yes, you're giving up control and I'm taking control. I'm taking control of your physical body. But if you want to kind of take that up a few notches up the chakra system and say, well, how is it at every single level?
Hmm.
It isn't so much that you're giving up control and I'm taking control. It's that I'm holding the form so I can take you into chaos. And giving up control is the first step towards moving into chaos, because you can't go there on your own control. You can't go there on your own power.
So
In a way, it's very dangerous. You may fall in and you may not come out.
good.
I know that sounds a little weird, but yeah, you should really not try to take yourself into subspace any more than you should try and do a very deep medicine journey on your own. Do it in front of a shaman, let them hold space for you. If you do it on your own, things can go wrong and you won't have enough form to help yourself in the chaos. This is why people die. This is why they OD. This is
Hmm.
why they can have really bad experiences if they just do it completely on their own. You know what I mean? You don't want to go into that chaos on your own. You need somebody else holding the tether. So if you're going to give up control, it's logical to have someone else you can give that control over to, someone you trust. And that's the space that Dom holds.
And I mean, it's like masculine, feminine, and that's energy, not gender. But
Yeah.
I think it becomes very clear. And, you know, if you're, let's say, if you're a woman in this world, or you're one of the women that I work with that really loves control,
Yeah.
this is like a really cool opportunity to work with surrendering. Like, oh, you don't have to do a fucking thing. You speak what you want, you have consent, and then you can
Right.
just like actually surrender. And that's
Absolutely.
what an amazing muscle to flex and
Yeah.
to learn how to use.
We all want to surrender. And
We
anyone
all,
holding space for us so that we can surrender is really a privilege.
yes, amazing. The other thing I want to mention is, so once you do the weekend workshop, can we share that there's like practice sessions that you hold?
Yeah, I hold directed scenes. I call them directed scenes. They are once a week gatherings where you can come in. Everyone who's in that community has done my work, is kind of trained, has some training. So that's kind of a prerequisite for being in there. And then people come together and they talk and they share, and then they create scenes with each other and play a little bit. Some
So
people
fucking fun.
yeah,
I mean, so basically you do this weekend and then you're in this community. So it's like you're investing in yourself, but you're investing in the fact that like this isn't one of those things that you did that weekend and now you can leave it. It's like you have
yeah,
opportunities to sharpen your skills in a laboratory, but it's very real. And it's also in a really cool dungeon with lots of goodies and support and love.
yeah.
And
I mean, people have a deep need for community here. People, when they open up this realm, they say, "Well, now who do I engage with?" Because not everybody out there has good training. So it's like, well, here's one solution.
and the fundamental is like everyone's taught by Om. So we have that basic, you know, consent and like the communication skills. So, you know, you can just go to some DS party and then hope and pray that everyone has, you know,
And most people in our community, they've done DS, but they've like done so much more.
yeah.
A
I
lot
mean,
of them
everybody's
have done a
really
lot of
fucking special.
tantra. People have done one taste
Like
work.
I'm there, I'm in the community and I'm pretty amazing. So it's people of,
Yes.
but it's people of caliber who are like on a life's journey. This isn't just like a kink fest. It's like people who are deeply seekers,
Yeah.
you know,
And
teachers.
sometimes we do sex magic. That's fun.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yes, yes. There's so much. So, I mean, we give like Om gives so much, so generous. I'm so grateful. And I'm inviting all of you, which can be a little vulnerable, into this community. I'm like, oh, fuck, then these people are going to show up. And I'm always like, let's see who wants to be there. But I'm not going to handpick. I'm really enjoying the people that I met at Connection Camp, because they were so into this. And there were so many people who were like, I was nervous, I didn't come, I wish I did. And there were people that really wanted to go deeper. And so this is like a big invite to all of them and anybody else that I know. And of course, it's open to others as well.
Excellent.
Excellent. All right. Well, if anybody has any further questions, you can shoot me or Om an email or a message, and we will gladly answer. And the first 10 people, I don't even know if it's 10 anymore, but the first 10 people that register are pay $390. And then once that early bird is over, it's $490. So get up in this. It's like 9:30 to 6 p.m., 2 full days, lunch included, in a gorgeous home. And anything else you want to add?
No, if they have any questions, they're welcome to write.
Okay.
I will answer whatever I can.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Om, for this late night chat.
Excellent.
Yes.
Are we done?
You're done.
All right.
Okay.
Take us off.
Okay. Bye.